This is a video for a lesson for Dear Mr. Kilmer. It is a novel for the SPM pupils, and then we are doing SPM Trial Paper for the year 2020. Let's look at the paper. This is the trial paper for the year 2020, and this is the Melaka paper. The earlier video is actually for the Kelantan paper. Let's look at the question. The question is for number 33. The following are the novels studied in the literature component in English language. Dear Mr. Kilmer by Ashraf, Sing to the Dawn by Ming Fong Ho, and Captain Nobody, Dean Pitchford. Choose any one of the novels above and answer the questions below. With close reference to the text, describe an important decision made by a character and how it changed his or her life. Give your opinion about the decision made by the character. Let's now look at the first order answer for the question. Let's look at the format for the content. First, we must have the decision. So you can write Richard signed the sympathy card for the Shermans, and then the changes in the characters. So you can say change number 1. He showed Mrs. Hanson that he was not discriminating of others. And then change 2, you can say he became closer with Hannah, his only friend, and the rest of the class did not treat him well. And then change number 3, he was confronted by Abner and Harry, and he proved to them that he was strong. So the question carries 10 marks for content and 5 marks for language. Now let's look at the format for the answer. So you need to have first paragraph, which is the introduction. You have to write the title, the author, and summary of the novel. And then paragraph 2, you can use content 1. So you must mention the event or the decision and the first change. And then go to the next paragraph. You are using content 2, where you write the second change. And then the next paragraph, which is paragraph 4, change number 3. And then the last paragraph, which is the conclusion, you can write the summary of your contents. Before we start writing, remember there are a few reminders here. First of all, remember that you have to use past tense to write the events in the novel. And then number 2, you have to read the questions a few times to understand the task. And then number 3, determine whether only one character or more can be written. And then sometimes you can also check whether they are asking for an event or more than one event. Writing in past tense will make your answer easier because you do not need to remember the present tense where it changes with the subjects and verb agreement. Let's look at the first paragraph, which is the introduction paragraph. So this is a sample answer. The novel that I read was Dear Mr. Kilmer by Ashraf. The novel is about a farm boy, Richard Knight, who lived in Turtle Lake, Iowa. He was 50 years old and had an elder sister, Angie, and brother, Gus. The story evolved around Richard, who loved to write poetry, and his relationships with his family, Hannah Shermer, his classmates, and Mr. Joyce Kilmer, a famous poet who joined the army during World War I. Now we are moving to the second paragraph, which is you have to write your decision here in the second paragraph. What is the decision made by one of the characters, and also content 1 for the change. One day, Mrs. Hanson, an English teacher, entered the class and informed Richard and his classmates that the tavern, which belonged to the Shermans, Hannah's parents, had been vandalized. They even painted the word "Dirty Hans" on the wall of the tavern. she prepared a card to express regret and sympathy over this matter, and she asked the whole class to sign. Many of the students refused to sign the card. They started insulting Hannah. Mrs. Hanson got upset at their remarks. Richard ended up being the only student in the entire class to sign the card. Richard's life changed after he made the decision. First, he gained respect from Mrs. Hanson as he showed her that he stood firm on his principle that every human being should be respected and not discriminated. Mrs. Hanson was proud of Richard for having integrity. Nevertheless, he knew his decision would also get him into trouble with the other students. Now let's look at paragraph 3. We are using content 2. The second change in Richard is his decision also began to make him become closer with Hannah, and later they became close friends. When he signed the card, he only knew Hannah as a classmate, but his action of signing the card and sending it personally to the Schirmers made Hannah realize that he was a kind person, so she apologized for being rude to him when he had sent the card. Now we are at paragraph 4. We are using content 3. We can write the sample answer. Last but not least, Richard's decision also made him a target of the bullies in the class like Harry and Abner. They tried to beat him up on the way home, but Richard forced them off. His decision resulted in the attack, but Richard also proved to the bullies that he was a strong boy. His decision changed him as he was able to show the bullies in the class that he was capable of protecting himself. This is paragraph 5, which is the conclusion. You can write, to conclude, the decision made by Richard, which was to sign the sympathy card, changed him as he showed to others that he had integrity, he was a kind person and friend, as well as a strong boy. Now let's move on. We're going to look at the second answer for the question. For the second answer, you can write, the decision is Richard wrote a letter to Mr. Kilmer. And change number 1, he became brave enough to reveal his secret of writing poems to his family members. And change number 2, he had confidence. He also told Mrs. Hanson he also read the poem in class. And change number 3, you can write, he was more sympathetic about the soldiers in the war. He wrote poems about them and an essay on corresponding with them. For paragraph 1, which is the introduction, we are using the same introduction as the first answer. The novel that I read was Dear Mr. Kilmer by Anne Schraff. The novel is about a farm boy, Richard Knight, who lived in Turtle Lake, Iowa. He was 15 years old and had an elder sister Angie and brother Gus. The story evolved around Richard, who loved to write poetry, and his relationship with his family, Hannah Schirmer, his classmates, and Mr. Joyce Kilmer, a famous poet who joined the army during World War I. For paragraph 2, you have to write the decision and also the change, which is content 1. So this is the example. One day, Mrs. Hanson, an English teacher, read a poem Trees by Mr. Joyce Kilmer, who worked at the New York Times. Richard was amazed by how the poem could be so simple yet had a profound message. He felt hopeful that his poetry could be as good. The boys like Abner said that the poems were for sissies. But Mrs. Hanson explained that Mr. Kilmer had volunteered to fight in the army. When Richard heard this, he felt that he had found his hero. He borrowed the book from Mrs. Hanson and found the address of his workplace and copied it down. At home, he read the book and decided to write a letter to Mr. Kilmer. He expressed his admiration and shared about his secret of writing poems. Mr. Kilmer replied his letter and encouraged him to share his poems with others. He also asked Richard to send him his poems. I believe that the decision to write a letter to Mr. Kilmer changed Richard's life as he gained confidence to tell his family members about his secret. He told his father Pa, Gus, his brother, and his sister Angie. No one was interested in the letter from Mr. Kilmer. and Gus even advised him to not talk about his poetry in school. Now we are writing paragraph 3 and using content 2. Content 2 is for the second change. So this is the sample answer. The second change in Richard is he was willing to share about his passion to write poems with his teacher, Mrs. Hanson. When she read the letter, she was very proud of him. She helped to select a poem to be sent to Mr. Kilmer and also encouraged him to share his poetry and correspondence with Mr. Kilmer with the class. Writing the letter to Mr. Kilmer managed to make Richard a braver person, and he opened up about his love for poetry to others. Now we are doing paragraph 4, and then remember that this is about the third change, so it is content 3. We can write, last but not least, Richard's decision to write to Mr. Kilmer also made him become more concerned and sympathetic towards the soldiers who were fighting in the army. He wrote poems about them. He also feared for the safety of Otto, Hannah's brother who was in the army, and Mr. Kilmer. In the program to sell Liberty bonds to help support the army, Richard also expressed his concern by writing an essay about how people could exchange letters with the soldiers. For paragraph 5, which is the conclusion, you can write, to conclude, the decision made by Richard which was to write a letter to Mr. Kilmer, had changed him as he became more confident and braver to share his passion for writing poetry. He was also more aware about the soldiers in the army and showed his concern and sympathy for them. Dear students, we have come to the end of the lesson for today, and just now you learned how to write answer for the question which is in the trial paper for the year 2020. So I'll be sharing more videos on question and answer for the novel Dear Mr. Kilmer. And then don't forget, subscribe to my channel. It is here, okay? It is called Educator OmniTube. So do subscribe, and then signing off. Bye bye.